Eleanor, please, do not be in such a hurry to leave. Sit down and listen to what I have to say. Dr. Miller, the doctor at the community clinic, took off his reading glasses and rubbed his reddened eyes with his knuckles. I steadied myself on the edge of the examination table and slowly sat back down in the chair, my right hand unconsciously pressing against my stomach. It had been aching for over 3 months, a dull pain, as if a blunt knife were slowly grinding against my insides. The test results are not very optimistic. Dr. Miller's voice suddenly seemed distant, and the fluorescent lights of the exam room blurred into a hazy halo before my eyes. The endoscopy shows a mass, about 4 centimeters, with irregular edges. We need to do more tests to confirm what it is. I stared at Dr. Miller's moving lips, but only caught a few fragmented words. Likely malignant, as soon as possible, a major hospital. The stack of test reports on the table suddenly felt impossibly heavy. I reached for them, only to find my hand trembling like a dead leaf in the wind. Eleanor, do you have a family member with you? I suggest. I am fine on my own, I interrupted, my voice steadier than I expected. My son is busy with work. I do not want to bother him. As I walked out of the clinic, the early summer sun stung my eyes. I stood on the steps, watching the endless stream of cars on the road and the pedestrians hurrying by, and was struck by a profound sense of absurdity. How could the world just keep spinning like this, so perfectly normal? And me, Eleanor Vance, 79 years old, might have stomach cancer. On the bus, I gripped the handrail tightly. Every jolt made the pain in my stomach sharper. In the seat ahead, 2 young girls were chattering excitedly about a new trendy boba place that had just opened. Behind me, a student hummed along to a song playing through his headphones. I gazed out the window at the passing storefronts and suddenly remembered I needed to buy my granddaughter her favorite chocolate chip cookies. My phone vibrated in my purse. It was my son, Michael. Mom, Chloe's school needs the fee for her extracurricular activities next week. Do you have the money? Michael got straight to the point. In the background, I could hear the sharp, complaining voice of my daughter-in-law, Jessica, and the sound of my granddaughter crying. Michael, Mom went for a checkup today. I clutched the phone, hesitating, wondering how to begin. Another checkup? Did not you just go last month? Michael cut me off, annoyed. Mom, these little clinics are always trying to scare old people, ordering a bunch of useless tests to milk the insurance. You should stop going to the hospital all the time. They will find something wrong with you even when there is nothing. I swallowed the words that were on the tip of my tongue. Okay, I understand. Oh, and that limited edition backpack Chloe wants, remember to go buy it tomorrow. It will be sold out if you are late, Michael said hurriedly, then added, I will give you the money over the weekend. He hung up. I stared at the dark screen, which reflected my own old face, the wrinkles like cracks in a dry riverbed, my eyes cloudy and dull. When was the last time I had really looked in a mirror? The year my husband passed away? Or the day Michael got married? Back home, I mechanically rinsed rice and started cooking, even though the pain in my stomach left me with no appetite. The glass doors of the kitchen cabinets were covered with my granddaughter's awards and photos. A family portrait of Michael, Jessica, and Chloe sat in the most prominent spot in the living room, taken last Christmas on their trip to Hawaii. The 3 of them were smiling brilliantly. I stood at the very edge, looking like a bystander who had been pulled into the shot at the last second. After dinner, the pain intensified. I curled up on the sofa, a cold sweat beading on my forehead. A family drama was playing on the television. The elderly mother in the show was doted on by her children, who fought over the chance to care for her, living a life of perfect happiness. I changed the channel with a bitter smile. Reality was never that kind. My phone rang again. This time, it was Jessica. Mom, Michael wanted me to tell you he has an unexpected meeting at the office tomorrow morning, so he cannot go with you to the hospital. Jessica's voice was tinged with impatience. Just take a cab yourself. Do not squeeze onto the bus. We do not want people saying we are not good children. Okay, I understand, I replied softly. Suddenly, I heard the sound of suitcase wheels rolling on the floor and Chloe's excited shout from the other end of the line. Mommy, did you pack my swimsuit? Pack what? Do not mess with that. Jessica's sharp reprimand to her daughter came through the phone, jarringly loud. Then, she spoke to me again. Mom, I have to go. Chloe's acting up. Before the call disconnected, I clearly heard an unfamiliar man's voice say, "The flight is at 7 in the morning tomorrow. Do not be late." I sat frozen on the sofa, a sudden realization dawning on me. Trembling, I opened my social media app and scrolled down for a long time until I finally found a post from Jessica the previous night, a photo of a travel agency flyer with the caption, "The long-awaited family vacation is finally happening." Below it was a comment from Jessica's sister, "Sis, are Mom and Dad excited you are taking them to Florida?" Jessica had replied, "Keeping it a secret for now. Want to surprise them." I stared at the phone screen until my eyes ached. The pain in my stomach suddenly seemed insignificant compared to the violent, twisting pain that seized my heart. I slowly got up, walked to the kitchen, and started searching for flour and chocolate chips. Chloe loved the cookies I made. They were going on a trip tomorrow. I had to bake a batch for them to take along. At 3 in the morning, I finally finished packing 2 boxes of chocolate chip cookies into a gift bag stamped with a cheerful "Enjoy." The pain in my stomach was so bad I could not stand up straight, and I had to lean against the wall as I slowly made my way to the bathroom. While washing my hands, I noticed the medicine cabinet above the sink. It was neatly organized with Michael's family's common remedies: cold medicine, stomach pills, vitamins. My blood pressure medication was squeezed into the far corner, almost expired. The old woman in the mirror had bloodshot eyes, but a strange smile played on her lips. I suddenly remembered 30 years ago, the night Michael's father died of liver cancer. It was a moonlit night just like this one. Michael, only 10 years old at the time, had clung to me, sobbing his heart out. "Mom," he had cried, "when I grow up, I promise I will take good care of you. I will not let you suffer one bit." The buttery scent of the cookies drifted in from the kitchen, mingling with the metallic taste of blood rising in my throat. I slowly slid to the floor, hugged my knees, and wept without a sound. The alarm went off before the sun was up. I dragged my heavy body off the sofa, my bones feeling as if they had been dismantled and haphazardly reassembled. The dull ache in my stomach had turned into a sharp stabbing pain, like someone was pulling at my insides with a hook. As I washed up, I stared at my haggard face in the mirror, dark circles ringing my eyes. I had barely slept, tossing and turning until the early hours before finally drifting off for a short while. The cookies were already packed and sitting on the dining table. I had attached a small note to the gift bag. "Have a wonderful trip. Stay safe." At exactly 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Michael stood outside, dressed in a suit, his hair impeccably combed, but his eyes kept darting to his watch. "Mom, an important client came to town unexpectedly." He handed me an envelope. "Here is $2,000. Take a cab to the hospital. Do not try to save the money." I took the envelope. It was thin, nowhere near 2,000, but I did not call him on it. I just nodded. "I understand. You go on. Get to work." Michael let out a sigh of relief. His eyes fell on the cookies on the table. "I baked those for Chloe." "They are her favorite," I said, forcing a smile. "What time is your flight?" Michael clearly flinched. "What flight? I thought I heard Chloe say something last night." I pretended to be trying to remember. "Oh, that!" Michael interrupted quickly. "It is a work trip the company arranged. Just for a day. I will be back tomorrow." He glanced at his watch again. "Mom, I really have to go. Call me after your appointment." He turned to leave. "Michael," I called out suddenly. "What is it, Mom?" he asked, turning back, his brow already furrowed. I looked at my son's familiar yet strange face. The words I wanted to say caught in my throat. In the end, I just shook my head. "Nothing. Be safe on the road." The door closed. I stood there, listening to his footsteps hurry down the hallway, followed by the ding of the elevator. The cookies still sat quietly on the table. They had forgotten to take them. At 7:30, I was alone in a taxi. The driver was a friendly, middle-aged man who chattered on and on about his mother's recent cataract surgery. "The old lady is so stubborn, insisted on waiting for her son to come back from out of state before she would have the operation," the driver said with a laugh. "For our generation, you know, being a good son is just what you do." I stared at the passing scenery, saying nothing. Another wave of sharp pain twisted in my stomach. I pressed down hard on my abdomen, a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. "Ma'am, you look really pale. Should I drive faster?" the driver asked, glancing at me with concern in the rearview mirror. "No need. Safety first." I managed a weak smile. The hospital was at least 10 times more crowded than the clinic. I felt like a small boat tossed about in a turbulent sea of people, and it took a great effort just to get registered. The waiting area for the gastroenterology department was packed, with most patients accompanied by family. I found a seat in a corner and took out my medical records and test results. Number 17, Eleanor Vance, a nurse called from a doorway. Inside the office, a senior doctor with graying hair carefully reviewed my test reports, his brow furrowed. He ordered more tests. A contrast, CT scan, tumor markers, a biopsy. "Is your family not with you?" the doctor asked, looking up. "My son is busy with work," I answered quietly. The doctor sighed. "Your situation is quite complex. It would be best to have a family member here to discuss the treatment plan." "Doctor, just tell me straight," I said, sitting up straighter. "I can handle it." The next few hours were a blur as I was moved from one examination room to another like a part on an assembly line. The CT machine was cold and noisy. Lying in the narrow space, listening to the instructions to breathe in, hold your breath, I suddenly remembered when Michael had his appendix removed as a child. I had waited outside the operating room all night. At noon, I managed to swallow half a bowl of broth in the hospital cafeteria. My phone was silent. No missed calls, no messages. But on social media, there was a new post from Jessica, a 9-picture collage. Michael was at the airport pushing a luggage cart. Jessica's parents were beaming, and Chloe was making a funny face while holding up a boarding pass. The last photo was a selfie taken inside the plane. Jessica's brightly lipsticked face took up most of the frame, with Michael, buckled in, and a sleeping Chloe in the background. The caption read, "Finally ditched the dead weight and starting our happy family trip." My finger hovered over the screen, trembling, before I pressed the like button. By 3 in the afternoon, all the test results were in. The doctor looked at the reports, his expression grave. "Miss Vance, the pathology results show a poorly differentiated adenocarcinoma. It has already spread to some extent." The white walls of the office seemed to press in on me. The doctor's voice faded in and out. "Late stage. Aggressive treatment might extend. Need to decide on a treatment plan soon." "How much time do I have?" I heard myself ask. "Without treatment, probably 3 to 6 months. With chemotherapy and targeted therapy, it might be extended to about a year." The doctor pushed up his glasses. "You really need to discuss this with your family." "I understand." I nodded, gathering the reports one by one and putting them in a folder. "Thank you, doctor." When I walked out of the hospital, the setting sun was the color of blood. I stood on the steps, watching the people come and go, and suddenly had no idea where to go. Home? Back to that empty house? To a table of cookies no one would eat? "Ma'am, are you all right?" A young nurse steadied me as I swayed. "Should I call a cab for you?" I shook my head and slowly walked down the steps. I sat on a bench at the bus stop for a long time, until the pain in my stomach returned. This time more intense than ever, like a fire burning inside my abdomen. Everything went black, and I pitched forward. "Careful!" A pair of strong hands caught me. I opened my eyes to see a face that was both strange and familiar. A woman in her 60s, with short, salt and pepper hair and bright, energetic eyes. "Are you okay? You are as white as a sheet." She helped me back onto the bench and took a thermos out of her bag. "Have some warm water." I took small sips of the warm water, and the twisting pain in my stomach eased slightly. "Are you here for a doctor's appointment too?" she asked, pointing to the folder of test results in my hand. I instinctively clutched the folder closer. "Yes, just a small issue. My name is Carol Fenwick." "Stage 3 stomach cancer," she said, introducing herself cheerfully. "Just finished a round of chemo and came for a follow-up." I looked at her in shock. This woman, Carol, was so full of life and spoke with such a strong voice. She did not look like a cancer patient at all. "Surprising, is it not?" she laughed. "The doctors say I am recovering well. How about you?" Under Carol's gentle gaze, I let my guard down. Eleanor Vance. Just diagnosed. Late-stage stomach cancer. Carol did not show the pity or sympathy I expected. She just nodded. Have you been admitted yet? Not yet. I have not decided. I am in the oncology ward, bed 17. Come chat sometime if you have a chance, she said, patting my hand. With this disease, the worst thing is trying to go through it alone. It was 8 o'clock at night when I got home. On the dining table, the cookies sat untouched. The words on the note seemed to mock me under the lamplight. I slowly walked over, threw the cookies in the trash can one by one, and then sat motionless in the dark living room. My phone suddenly rang. It was a video call from Michael. I took a deep breath and answered. Michael's sunburned face appeared on the screen. The background, a hotel room. Mom, what did the test results say? Not good. The doctors say it is late-stage stomach cancer, I said calmly. Michael froze for a second. The camera shook, and Jessica's face squeezed into the frame. Mom, doctors at those small clinics always exaggerate to scare old people. Do not frighten yourself. We will take you to a bigger hospital for another checkup when we get back. I could hear Chloe's laughter and the sound of splashing water from off-screen as if she were in the bath. Are you having a good time? I asked. It is okay, just too hot, Michael said evasively. Mom, the signal is bad here. I have to go. You get some rest. Do not overthink things. The screen went dark. I put down the phone and walked out onto the balcony. The night sky was full of stars, and the lights of distant skyscrapers twinkled. I remembered 30 years ago, the night Michael's father died. The sky was clear like this then, too. Michael had cried and said, Mom, when I grow up, I will make sure you have a good life. The wind dried the tears on my face. I picked up my phone and dialed the hospital's number. Hello, I would like to make an appointment to be admitted. The hospital corridor seemed to stretch on forever. I leaned against the wall as I walked, clutching the newly issued admission form. The oncology ward was on the 3rd floor of Building 5. To get there from the outpatient department, I had to cross 2 covered walkways and a garden. Eleanor? A familiar voice called out. I turned to see Carol pushing an IV pole towards me. 2 bags of medicine hung from it, with tubes connected to a port in her arm. You came to get admitted? She asked with a smile. I nodded. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness hit me, and I nearly collapsed. Carol quickly reached out and steadied me. Careful. You look terrible. Let me take you to the nurse's station. With Carol's help, I completed the admission procedures smoothly and was assigned to bed 19, right next to hers with 1 empty bed in between. There were 3 beds in the room. The one by the window, bed 20, was empty, but the name card read Susan Lang. Susan went for some tests. She will not be back until tonight, Carol said, helping me organize my nightstand. Where is your family? They did not come with you? My son is on a business trip, I lied. A nurse came to draw my blood, take my blood pressure, and ask a barrage of questions. Soon after, a young male doctor in his 30s, a Dr. Evans, came to check on me. Eleanor, your case is quite unusual. We need to formulate a treatment plan as soon as possible, Doctor, Evans said, flipping through my test results. There will be a multidisciplinary team meeting tomorrow morning to discuss your case. I nodded. Suddenly, I noticed 2 doctors in white coats standing at the door of the ward, talking in low voices. One of them pointed in my direction and said something. The other shook his head, his expression grave. They did not notice me watching them and continued their conversation as they walked away. Carol, I need to use the restroom, I said, pushing myself up from the bed. I will go with you, Carol immediately offered, putting down her book. The restroom was at the end of the hall. I walked slowly, but my ears were pricked up. I could hear the voices of the 2 doctors from the nearby doctor's office. That patient in bed 19, Eleanor Vance. The pathology is worse than we thought. It has metastasized to the liver. Not just that, the peritoneum too. 3 months at most. My feet froze. 3 months? Had not the outpatient doctor said at least 3 to 6? Eleanor? Carol looked at me with concern. I am fine. Just a little dizzy all of a sudden. I managed a weak smile and continued walking. The mirror in the restroom reflected my pale face. I stared at the person in the mirror and felt a sense of estrangement. Who was this old woman with a face full of wrinkles and sunken eyes? How could she have stomach cancer? How could her son have the heart to fly off on vacation the very day she was diagnosed? Back in the ward, I refused lunch and just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Carol did not say anything more, quietly reading her book. At 3 in the afternoon, a nurse came to hook me up to an IV drip for nutrition, saying I was severely anemic. "Eleanor, you have to eat something," the nurse said, adjusting the drip rate. "Chemotherapy is very draining. If you do not build up your strength now, it will be much harder later." I shook my head and closed my eyes. In a half-conscious state, I heard Carol and the newly returned Susan talking softly. Her son and his family went on vacation. These young people today even posted something like that on social media. As dusk fell, my phone rang. It was Michael. The background was noisy, with the sound of waves and cheerful music. "Mom, did you get the admission paperwork done?" His voice sounded distracted. "It is done," I replied curtly. "That is great," he said. "Jessica thought you should get a private room, but I figured since insurance is covering it, a regular ward is fine. Are you having a good time?" I cut him off. "It is okay. Chloe got a little sunburned," Michael said, then paused. "Mom, I have to take Chloe snorkeling now, so I will hang up. You get some rest. Call if you need anything." The call ended. I stared at my phone screen and noticed a new notification. "Miss Davis has sent you a friend request." Miss Davis? She was the daughter of my old high school classmate, William King. She worked at a law firm. I had gone to her father's funeral last year. After accepting the request, Miss Davis immediately sent a message. "Eleanor, I found some documents while sorting through my father's belongings that concern you. Please contact me when you are free." Concerned me? Puzzled, I replied. "I am in the hospital right now. What is it about?" Miss Davis called immediately. "Eleanor, you are sick? Which hospital are you in? I will come see you tomorrow." The next morning, Miss Davis arrived as promised. She was a capable-looking woman in her early 40s, carrying a fruit basket and a stack of files. "Eleanor, there was a folder in my father's desk with your name on it," she said, getting straight to the point after sitting down. "It contains some documents from when your old factory was restructured over 20 years ago." I could not remember any such documents. In 1998, when the machinery factory was restructured, I had taken a buyout package, received a lump sum, and retired. Michael had just started college then, and money was tight. "Look at this," Miss Davis said, pulling a yellowed contract from the file. "Back then, besides the buyout, you were also entitled to a corporate pension, which was to be paid out over 20 years because of the large amount." I took the contract. My signature was indeed on it. But I had no memory of this money. Later, the factory was acquired, and there were a lot of personnel changes. "They probably failed to notify you," Miss Davis explained. "I have checked. The money has been sitting in a corporate account all this time. With interest, it is now over $800,000. $800,000? I stared at her in disbelief. "And there is more," Miss Davis said, producing another document. "Do you remember the subsidized housing the factory offered in 1995? It was a limited title property, but the unit under your name was never dealt with. It is now worth at least $1 million. My mind went blank. Subsidized housing? I did vaguely remember something about it, but Michael was already away at college, and I did not think I needed another place, so I never filled out the paperwork. "Eleanor, these assets have been under your name all along. You just did not know," Miss Davis said with a smile. "Do you need my help to process the paperwork?" Just as I was about to answer, the ward door opened, and Dr. Evans walked in with several other doctors. "Eleanor, this is Dr. Roberts from radiology, and this is..." The multidisciplinary meeting had started early. Miss Davis tactfully took her leave. Before she left, she whispered, "I will come back tomorrow. You get some rest." The consultation lasted an hour. The doctors used a lot of medical terms I did not understand, but I could sense the situation was not good. Finally, Dr. Evans summarized, "Eleanor, we recommend starting with 2 cycles of chemotherapy to control the tumor's progression. and then we will re-evaluate if you are a candidate for surgery. And if I do not get treatment? I asked. Dr. Evans exchanged a look with the other doctors. Then the time will be very limited. How long exactly? Given the current rate of spread, possibly 2 to 3 months. It was the same as what I had overheard in the hallway. I nodded. I will do the chemotherapy. After the doctors left, I leaned against the headboard, my mind racing. $800,000 in a pension, a $1 million property. This windfall had come too suddenly, at a time when I might only have a few months left to live. My phone vibrated. It was another video call from Michael. I took a deep breath and answered. His face, even more tanned now, appeared on the screen against a backdrop of the blue ocean. Mom, how are you feeling today? The doctor says I need to start chemotherapy, I said calmly. Michael frowned. So serious? Could it be a misdiagnosis? It was the conclusion of a multidisciplinary team. What about the cost? Michael lowered his voice, as if afraid someone might overhear. How much will insurance cover? I am not sure yet, I said deliberately. I might have to sell the old house. Michael's expression changed instantly. Mom, you cannot sell the house. That is our family's foundation. What is the point of a foundation when the person is about to be gone? I retorted. Michael was at a loss for words. Jessica's voice came from off-screen. Michael! Chloe got stung by a sea urchin. Mom, I have to go, Chloe's hurt, Michael said hastily. We will talk about the house when I get back. The screen went dark. I put down the phone and looked out the window. The sunlight streamed through the glass, warm and bright on my hospital bed. Carol was right. The worst thing about this disease was trying to go through it alone. But now, it seemed I had found a new source of strength. Eleanor, are you absolutely sure you want to do this? Miss Davis asked, pushing up her glasses, her expression serious. The early morning sun streamed through a gap in the curtains, casting a golden line across my hospital bed. I nodded, my fingers gently tracing the signature line on the document. I have thought it through very clearly. Miss Davis sighed. Does your son know? I do not plan on telling him for now, I said calmly. Let's get the paperwork done first. Miss Davis collected the power of attorney forms I had signed. I will expedite the pension withdrawal and the property title confirmation. She hesitated for a moment. But given your current health, my mind is perfectly clear, I interrupted her. It is precisely because I may not have much time left that I need to do this quickly. After Miss Davis left, Carol returned from her morning walk, holding 2 cups of soy milk. Eleanor, drink this while it is hot. I thanked her and took small sips. The soy milk was warm and sweet, reminding me of when Michael was little, how I used to wake up early to make it for him. Life was hard back then, but my heart was full. How are you feeling today? Carol asked, sitting down by my bed. You look a little better than yesterday. I am okay, I said, putting down the cup. Carol, what do you think a person should do if they have spent their whole life living for others, only to realize at the end that they have not really lived at all? Carol smiled. Then they should hurry up and live for themselves for once. Just then, a nurse came in. Eleanor, we need to draw blood for your pre-chemo tests. I clenched my teeth as the needle went into my vein. The nurse complimented me on my good veins, saying that many elderly people had fragile, thin veins that were hard to find. I remembered how terrified Michael was of needles as a child. I would have to hold him and coax him for ages every time. After the blood draw, the nurse scheduled an appointment for me to have a port inserted that afternoon. Carol explained it was a long-term intravenous catheter that would avoid repeated needle sticks. Chemo drugs are harsh on the veins, she said, showing me the port in her own arm. It takes some getting used to at first, but it gets better. At lunch, I forced down a few bites of the hospital meal and suddenly received a message in a family group chat from Jessica's sister. Sis, Mom and Dad want you to check out some bags at the duty-free shop. I will send you the pictures privately. It was followed by a photo of a luxury handbag. I was about to scroll past when another message popped up. By the way, how are you and Michael doing with the plan to use your mom's house as collateral for a loan to open that coffee shop? My finger froze over the screen. Collateral for my house? Michael had never mentioned a word of this to me. Before I could process it, the sister quickly deleted the second message and sent me a private one. Eleanor, I am so sorry. I sent that to the wrong group. Please do not misunderstand. I did not reply. I just quietly took a screenshot. The message had only been there for a few seconds, but it was long enough for me to read it clearly. So, without my knowledge, my house had already been factored into their business plans. The port insertion in the afternoon went smoothly, but after returning to the ward, I started running a fever. The nurse said it was a normal reaction and gave me some fever reducer. I drifted into a drowsy sleep, dreaming of Michael when he was a little boy with a high fever. I had stayed up all night by his bedside, sponging him down with alcohol to cool him. I woke up around 8 in the evening to find 3 missed calls, all from Michael. I called him back. It rang for a long time before he answered. Mom, why did not you answer the phone? Michael's voice was sharp with impatience. I was asleep, I replied curtly. We are coming back tomorrow, Michael said. Chloe misses her grandma. I almost scoffed. Misses her grandma? Their 10-day vacation was only half over, and they were rushing back. They must have seen the photo I sent of me in the hospital and gotten worried about the house. Okay, travel safely, I said flatly. After hanging up, I saw a message from Miss Davis. Eleanor, the pension funds have been processed and should be in your account within a week. For the property title, you will need to be present to sign. When would be a convenient time for you? I thought for a moment and replied, I can take a 2-hour leave from the hospital tomorrow morning. The next morning, I requested a leave of absence from the head nurse. Carol offered to go with me, but I declined. This was my battle, and I wanted to face it alone. Miss Davis picked me up and drove me to the property records office. Along the way, she explained the nature and limitations of the limited title property. It cannot be sold on the open market, but it can be inherited or transferred to other eligible employees of the factory. If something happens to me, can my son inherit it? I asked. Of course, he is the primary heir, Miss Davis said, glancing at me. However, if you were to write a will now, you could designate other beneficiaries or donate it. I did not respond. The car pulled up to the office. I followed Miss Davis inside, signing and fingerprinting various documents. The staff were efficient, and 2 hours later, I walked out with an official, red-stamped confirmation of ownership. Eleanor, what are your plans for the house now, Miss Davis asked on the way back to the hospital. There is a tenant living there now. The rent has been held in a trust account at the factory, and it has accumulated to over $100,000. Let's just leave it for now, I said, gazing at the scenery rushing past the window. I will decide after I have had some treatment. Back at the hospital, the nurses were already preparing for my first round of chemotherapy. Dr. Evans explained the possible side effects in detail. Nausea, hair loss, a weakened immune system. Eleanor, are you sure you want to begin? Dr. Evans asked one last time. Let's start, I said calmly. As the chemotherapy drugs dripped into my veins, one drop at a time, I felt a strange sense of peace. It was like a silent war, and I had finally picked up a weapon, no longer passively waiting for fate to decide for me. That evening, Michael's family returned as expected. They came straight to the ward, laden with shopping bags from the duty-free shops. Chloe was much darker from the Sunday. The moment she entered, she ran to my bedside. Grandma, I brought you a seashell necklace. I stroked her head and accepted the cheap plastic necklace. Michael put down the luggage, his gaze flickering over the IV pole next to my head. Mom, why did you start chemo so quickly? Should not you have gotten a second opinion? It was the doctor's recommendation, I answered briefly. Jessica stood behind Michael, a strained smile on her face. Mom, we brought you some high-grade protein powder. It will help with your recovery. She handed me a canister with foreign writing on it. I took it and placed it on the nightstand next to the fruit basket they had brought before. The fruit in that basket was already half-rotten, untouched. Mom, about the house. Michael had just started to speak when Jessica nudged him. Michael, Mom just had chemo. Why are you talking about this now? Jessica feigned a scolding tone, then turned to me. Mom, you get some rest. We will come see you again tomorrow. They left in a hurry, as if they had just completed a required chore. Chloe turned back to wave at me. I smiled and waved back, watching until they disappeared down the hall. The room was quiet again. I picked up the canister of protein powder and noticed the expiration date on the label. It had expired 3 months ago. The side effects of chemotherapy came faster and stronger than I had anticipated. On the 3rd day after my first treatment, I was hunched over the toilet in the ward's bathroom, vomiting violently. My stomach was long empty, but the dry heaving would not stop, as if I were trying to turn my organs inside out. "Rinse your mouth, Eleanor." Carol supported me as I swayed, handing me a cup of warm water. I managed to rinse my mouth and looked up at my reflection in the mirror. My face was sallow, my eyes sunken, and my hair was a tangled mess like a pile of dry straw. This was only the first round. There were 7 more to go. Back in my bed, a nurse gave me an anti-nausea injection. Under the effect of the medication, I finally drifted into a groggy sleep. In my dream, I was back in Michael's childhood. He had a high fever, and I carried him on my back to the hospital in the pouring rain. He had whispered, "Positwabation, Mom, when I grow up, I promise I will carry you." I woke up at dusk to find another person in the room, a Miss Clark from a cancer foundation, speaking in low tones with Carol. Seeing me awake, Miss Clark immediately walked over. "Eleanor, are you feeling any better?" She handed me a warm cup of date tea. "Carol told me you have been very sick. This will help replenish your energy." I sipped the sweet tea. It flowed down my burning throat, bringing a small measure of comfort. Miss Clark looked to be in her early 30s, dressed in a simple shirt and jeans. She spoke softly, but with a clear, organized manner. "Eleanor, Carol told me about your situation," she said, sitting by my bed. "Our foundation has a program for unsupported seniors, specifically to help cancer patients like you who do not have family to care for them." I instinctively wanted to argue that I had a son, but I swallowed the words. Having one and not having one, what was the difference? Miss Clark seemed to read my thoughts and tactfully changed the subject. "We also offer counseling and pain management services if you need them." "Thank you. I'm doing okay for now." I managed to smile. Miss Clark left her contact information and said she would visit again tomorrow. Carol walked her out and returned, mysteriously closing the ward door. "Eleanor, you know what?" she whispered. "Miss Clark said their foundation recently received a large anonymous donation, specifically to help elderly cancer patients who have been abandoned by their families." My heart skipped a beat. "How much?" $2 million. Carol's eyes lit up. "I heard it was donated by an old lady in a situation similar to yours. Her son was ungrateful, so she donated her entire life savings." I nodded thoughtfully. "Miss Davis had told me yesterday that the corporate pension funds had arrived $837,600, all deposited into a new bank account for which only I knew the password." "Eleanor, what do you think that old lady was thinking?" Carol asked as she tidied my nightstand. "If it were me, I would rather take the money and travel the world than leave it to some ungrateful brat." I did not answer, but a plan was already forming in my mind. That evening, Michael called, saying Chloe had a school event and they could not visit today. I could hear the clatter of cutlery and muffled laughter in the background, like they were at a restaurant. "Are you eating out?" I asked. "Oh yeah. Chloe wanted to get Italian," Michael said, his tone slightly unnatural. "Mom, how are you feeling today?" "I threw up about 8 times," I told him honestly. Michael was silent for a few seconds. Then, "Should we hire a caregiver?" "No need. The nurses are here." I paused. "About the expenses." "Mom, I was just about to talk to you about that." Michael suddenly lowered his voice. "Jessica and I are planning to start a business, a coffee shop. The initial investment is quite large." "Your treatment costs? How much will insurance reimburse?" So that was it. I closed my eyes. "I do not know. I have not asked yet." "How about this?" Michael said, as if he had made a great decision. "You give me the deed to the old house first. I will use it as collateral for a loan, so we can get your treatment funds ready." I almost laughed out loud. "For my treatment funds? Or for his coffee shop?" "The deed is in a safe deposit box at the bank," I lied. "I will get it when I am feeling better." Michael was audibly relieved. "No rush, no rush. You just focus on getting well." Oh, and Jessica said she will bring Chloe to see you this weekend. After hanging up, I opened the photo album on my phone and found the picture I had taken a few days ago of the deed to the old house. That little green booklet represented a lifetime of hard work for me and Michael's father. Now, in my son's eyes, it was nothing more than an ATM. The next day, I felt a bit stronger. Miss Clark came as promised, this time with a few brochures and a form. "Eleanor, this is some information about our foundation." She opened a color brochure. "If you wish to make a donation or seek assistance, you can contact me anytime." I took the brochure and flipped through it casually. The foundation's main purpose was to fund underprivileged cancer patients, especially the elderly, with no children or whose children were not providing care. One page featured an anonymous donor who had given her entire life savings of $2 million to establish a special fund. "This lady," I pointed to the pixelated portrait in the photo. "She is very admirable, is she not?" Miss Clark smiled. When her son and his family found out, they caused a scene at the foundation, demanding the donation be revoked. But legally, it was already impossible. "What happened after?" "I heard her son was fired from his job, something about embezzling company funds," Miss Clark said, shaking her head. "What goes around, comes around." I nodded thoughtfully and suddenly made a decision. "Miss Clark, I would also like to make a donation." Miss Clark looked at me, surprised. "Eleanor, you mean—" "I have some savings, and I want to help people who have had similar experiences to mine," I said calmly. "But I need you to keep it confidential, at least while I am undergoing treatment." Miss Clark immediately assured me that the foundation had a robust privacy policy. We had a preliminary discussion about the form and amount of the donation, and she promised to provide me with a detailed proposal soon. In the afternoon, Miss Davis came to the hospital, bringing the final property title documents and a bank book for the rental income. "Eleanor, this is the rent from the past 20-plus years, a total of $187,000. She handed me the bank book. "The tenant wishes to renew the lease. What do you think?" "Let's not renew for now," I said, shaking my head. "I will decide after my treatment is over." Miss Davis looked like she wanted to say something but ultimately just nodded. "You get some rest. Call me if you need anything." After she left, I took out my phone and looked at the photos of Michael's family in Florida. Jessica's brilliant smile, Michael's tanned face, Chloe's carefree grin, and that social media post about finally ditching the dead weight. My finger hovered over the screen for a long time. In the end, instead of deleting it, I saved it. On the 7th day of chemotherapy, my hair began to fall out in clumps. When I woke up in the morning, my pillow was covered in gray and white strands, like fallen leaves in autumn. Carol helped me gently comb what was left, and finally, she just took a pair of scissors and gave me a very short buzz cut. "It looks sharp," she said, holding up a mirror for me. Like a fashionable old lady, I looked at myself in the mirror. The buzz cut made the wrinkles on my face more prominent, but my eyes seemed more spirited than before I was hospitalized. It was a strange feeling my appearance was aging rapidly, but my spirit was being reborn. That weekend, Michael's family came as promised. The moment Jessica walked in, she covered her mouth in an exaggerated gasp. "Mom, your hair." "A side effect of the chemo," I said calmly. Chloe curiously touched my bald head. "Grandma looks like a monk." Michael put down the fruit basket, his eyes darting around. "Mom, we have been thinking. It would be better if you moved in with us after you are discharged." I almost laughed out loud. The last time this was brought up, Jessica's face had immediately darkened, and she had said that 3 generations living under one roof would lead to conflicts. This sudden change of heart. They must be worried that if I am living alone, getting their hands on the house deed would be difficult. "No, thank you. I am used to living on my own," I replied coolly. "But you are all alone," Michael started to say. But Jessica cut him off. "Mom," she forced a smile, "we are just trying to do what is best for you. Look at you now. You need someone to take care of you. There is a meal delivery service, and my neighbors check in on me," I said, looking at her calmly. "You are both busy with work. I do not want to be a bother." Jessica's smile froze on her face. Michael frowned. "Mom, why are you being so stubborn?" "I am tired from the chemo," I said, closing my eyes, signaling the end of the conversation. They left in a huff. Even Chloe forgot to say goodbye. Listening to their retreating footsteps, I suddenly remembered what Miss Davis had said. You could write a will to designate other beneficiaries or donate it. It was time to make a decision. During the third cycle of chemotherapy, a miracle happened. Eleanor, your tumor markers have dropped by almost half. Dr. Evans held up the test report, his eyes shining. This is very rare in late-stage patients. I took the report. I could not understand most of the dense data and curves, but I could clearly see the small, downward-pointing arrow. Is it getting better? I asked cautiously. You could say that, doctor. Evans said, choosing his words carefully. The tumor's activity has significantly decreased, and the fluid buildup has also reduced. He paused. However, this does not necessarily mean you are cured. It could be a temporary positive response. I nodded. A plan was already forming in my mind. For the past half-month, I had been observing, thinking, and planning. Miss Davis had handled all the property paperwork, and Miss Clark had drawn up a donation proposal. Now, it was time to act. Dr. Evans, I was wondering. I hesitated deliberately. If my condition improves, could I be temporarily discharged? Dr. Evans pushed up his glasses. Theoretically, yes, but you would need to be closely monitored. Do you have something planned? I want to go home for a few days, I said with a smile. See some old friends. That afternoon I called Michael. The phone rang for a long time before he answered. The background was noisy, sounding like a bar or a club. Mom, what is up? His voice was thick with impatience. Michael, the doctor says I am getting better, I said, intentionally raising my voice to sound hopeful. The tumor has shrunk. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Really? But did not they say it was late stage? The doctor said miracles can happen, I continued my performance. I want to be discharged for a few days. Can you come pick me up? Well, Michael stammered. I am really busy with work these next few days. Maybe Jessica could. It is okay. I can just take a cab, I said quickly. I just wanted to share the good news with you. After hanging up, I looked at Carol, who was sitting by my bed. She gave me a thumbs up. Great acting. The next day, I began my fake recovery plan. I had Carol help me with some light makeup, put on a stylish wig she had bought for me, and changed into a new outfit Miss Davis had sent for my birthday. In the mirror, I looked vibrant and healthy, not at all like a cancer patient. Remember, be natural. Carol coached me like a director. Cough a little now and then, but do not overdo it. Make it look like you are trying to hide how much better you are feeling. Michael's family arrived in the evening. The moment they walked in, Jessica's eyes widened. I was sitting in a chair by the window, reading a book. The sunlight cast a golden glow around me. The wig was fluffy and stylish, and with foundation and blush, my complexion looked healthy and rosy. Mom, you look, Michael stammered. It is unbelievable. I smiled and closed my book. The doctor said it might have been a misdiagnosis, or maybe it is spontaneous remission. Spontaneous remission? Jessica repeated sharply, her expression a complex mix of surprise, doubt, disappointment, and a faint, barely perceptible anger. Chloe ran over and touched my wig. Grandma's hair grew back. Yes, and it is even darker and thicker now, I said, hugging my granddaughter, feeling her small, warm body. This child is innocent, I thought. The adult's problems should not affect her. Michael and Jessica exchanged a look. I pretended not to see, and continued enthusiastically. The doctor said if the results are still this good at my checkup next month, I might not need any more chemotherapy. That is great, Michael managed a weak smile. By the way, Mom, the house deed. Oh, I was just about to talk about that. I interrupted him. I am planning to renovate the old house. You can bring Chloe to stay on weekends. Jessica's face fell instantly. Renovate? How much will that cost? I will use the corporate pension, I said nonchalantly. The money Miss Davis helped me recover. It is over $800,000. Michael looked as if he had been struck by lightning, frozen in place. 800,000? Yes, surprising, is it not? I said, smiling sweetly at them. I am thinking of decorating it in a country style. Chloe will love it. On the way home, Michael drove. I could see him in the rearview mirror, constantly glancing at me. Jessica was busy texting on her phone, her fingers flying across the screen. Only Chloe leaned against me innocently, asking if I could install a swing in her room. "Mom, when did you contact Miss Davis?" Michael suddenly asked. "The day after I was admitted, I think," I said casually. I suddenly remembered her father was an old classmate of mine. "And besides the pension, was there anything else?" Michael asked, probing. I deliberately hesitated for a moment. No, that was it. In the rearview mirror, I saw Michael's eyes light up. He thought my lying skills were still at the level of when he used to lie to get candy as a child. When we got home, I made a show of wanting to cook. Jessica, uncharacteristically, offered to help. She bustled around the kitchen, pretending to be casual as she asked, "Mom, those documents, I mean the deed and the pension statements, where did you put them? Do you need me to help you organize them?" "They are locked in a safe deposit box at the bank," I said, not looking up from the cucumber I was slicing. "It is safer there." Jessica walked away sheepishly. At dinner, Michael kept bringing up the difficulties of his startup, hinting at a need for capital. I pretended not to understand, and instead enthusiastically discussed renovation plans, saying I wanted to hire a famous designer and use the best materials. "Mom," Michael finally lost his patience. "It would be much better to save that money for your medical treatments. Renovating is such a waste." "But did not you say it might have been a misdiagnosis?" I countered. Michael was speechless. Jessica kicked him under the table. That night, I lay in my own bed for the first time in a while, but I could not sleep. In the middle of the night, I heard hushed arguing from the living room. I quietly opened my bedroom door a crack and saw Michael and Jessica arguing on the sofa. "She was clearly dying, and now she is suddenly fine? How is that possible?" Jessica said through gritted teeth. "Keep your voice down," Michael said, nervously glancing towards my door. "The doctor said there have been cases of spontaneous remission." "Spontaneous remission?" Jessica scoffed. "I think she is faking it to get sympathy. The old woman must have found out we were looking in her drawers." "Shut up." Michael, for once, lost his temper. "That is my mother." I gently closed the door and went back to bed. So, they had gone through my things while I was away. It was a good thing I had left all the important documents with Miss Davis. The next morning, Michael, for a change, made breakfast. During the meal, he made an announcement. "Mom, Jessica, and I have talked it over. We are going to move back in for a while to be with you." I almost choked on my soy milk. "So they wanted to keep an eye on me?" "No need. You are both busy with work." Not busy at all," Michael said quickly. "Business has been slow lately. I have taken a long leave of absence. And Jessica has quit her job to help me full-time with the coffee shop." So that was it. The startup was a front. They were after my money. I put down my chopsticks and put on a touched expression. "That is wonderful. You can help me with the renovation plans." Michael and Jessica exchanged another look. This play was getting more and more interesting. The following days, we lived under the same roof, each with our own ulterior motives. Michael dutifully accompanied me on my daily walks and grocery shopping. Jessica considerately helped me with my laundry and cleaning, while simultaneously searching every nook and cranny for the house deed. I pretended not to notice. I even deliberately planted a photo of a fake safe deposit box key in a drawer and watched as they triumphantly and secretly took a picture of it. A week later, I accidentally took a call from Dr. Seder, end quote. Evans in front of Michael, scheduling a follow-up appointment for the next week. "Mom, I will go with you," Michael immediately said. "Of course," I replied with a smile, a new plan already forming in my mind. That night, I secretly contacted Miss Clark and Miss Davis to arrange a very special checkup. On the day of the appointment, I woke up early. The face in the mirror was pale. I had not put on any makeup and had purposely mussed up my wig. Michael was visibly taken aback when he saw me. "Mom, you do not look so good." "I did not sleep well last night," I said with a weak smile. "It is nothing. I will take a nap when we get back." At the hospital, I had Michael wait in the waiting area while I went into the exam room alone. Dr. Evans was ready and played his part perfectly. "Eleanor, all your indicators are improving," he said, deliberately raising his voice so Michael could overhear from outside. "It is truly miraculous." I quietly explained my plan to him. "Doctor," Evans nodded and continued in a loud voice, "but we still need to observe for a while. I recommend 2 more rounds of consolidation chemotherapy." Half an hour later, I came out with a good test report. Michael rushed up to me. "How did it go?" the doctor said. I paused for dramatic effect, then broke into a brilliant smile. "It is in complete remission. It might really have been a misdiagnosis." Michael's expression froze. "Complete? Complete remission? You mean you are cured?" I nodded emphatically, but the doctor recommends 2 more rounds of chemo, just to be safe. In the car on the way back, Michael was silent, his fingers drumming on the steering wheel. While waiting at a red light, he suddenly asked, "Mom, that pension money, have you used any of it yet?" "Not yet." "Why?" "Nothing. Just asking." Michael forced a smile. "Since you are all better, we should celebrate." When we got home, Michael immediately pulled Jessica into the bedroom and closed the door to talk. I tiptoed to the door and heard Jessica's shrill voice. "Impossible. Late-stage stomach cancer does not just cure itself. He is lying to us." "But the test results can be faked," Jessica sneered. "The old woman is smarter than she looks. She probably found out we were looking for the deed." "Then what do we do?" "Ask her for it directly," Jessica said viciously. "Tell her we need the money for our business. If she is really cured, she should help her son." I quietly retreated to my room and sent a text to Miss Davis. "We can begin." The next morning at breakfast, Michael brought it up as expected. "Mom, about the coffee shop Jessica and I are planning." "Oh, speaking of that, I was just about to tell you both," I interrupted him. "I have decided to donate the pension and the house to the Cancer Foundation." The breakfast table fell into a dead silence. Jessica's chopsticks clattered to the floor. Michael's face turned a visible shade of red. "What?" His voice cracked. "This illness of mine. I have been so fortunate to have the help of the hospital and my fellow patients," I said calmly. "So I want to give back to the community, to help other cancer patients." "Mom, are you insane?" Michael shot up from his chair, which scraped loudly against the floor. That is our family's money. It is my money, and I have the right to decide what to do with it," I said, looking my son directly in the eye. "Just as you had the right to decide to take your family on vacation instead of coming with me to get my diagnosis." Michael's face went from red to white. You knew? You did not block me from your social media," I said flatly. Jessica suddenly slammed her hand on the table. "You old hag, you have been faking it all along to trick us." "Jessica!" Michael tried to stop her, but it was too late. I slowly stood up, took my phone out of my pocket, and pressed the stop recording button. "Thank you for your honest words." Michael's face was ashen. "Mom, please do not misunderstand. There is no misunderstanding." I walked to the door and picked up the bag I had already packed. "I am going to Miss Davis's office to sign the donation papers. I will not be back for dinner." Stepping out of the house, I took a deep breath. The early summer sun felt warm on my face. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of relief. At Miss Davis's office, Miss Clark was already waiting. The donation documents were neatly laid out on the table, next to an outline for a media interview. "Eleanor, are you sure you want to go public with this?" Miss Clark asked with concern. "It might affect your son." "He should have thought of the consequences when he chose to go on vacation," I said calmly, signing my name on the documents. That night, I checked into a hotel near the hospital. I had over a dozen missed calls, all from Michael. Finally, he sent a text. "Mom, let's talk. Jessica knows she was wrong." I did not reply. The next day, the Cancer Foundation's press conference was held as scheduled. Facing the cameras, I calmly told my story. The cancer diagnosis, being abandoned by my son, the unexpected discovery of my assets, and my decision to donate them. "I hope this money can help more elderly people like me," I said into the microphone, "so they know that even when their life is coming to an end, they can still make a choice with dignity." After the press conference, my phone exploded. Relatives, old colleagues, even neighbors I had not seen in decades, all called. I did not answer any of them, only sending a text back to Carol. Everything went smoothly. I will be back at the hospital tomorrow. Just as I put down my phone, Miss Davis rushed in. Eleanor, your son has stormed into the Foundation's office. He is causing a huge scene. When we arrived, Michael was being held back by security guards at the entrance. His suit was wrinkled, his tie askew, his eyes bloodshot. "Mom!" he cried out when he saw me, rushing towards me. "You cannot do this. That money was what Dad left for me." "What your father left you was a conscience," I said coldly. "A pity you seem to have lost it." "I was wrong. I really know I was wrong." Michael fell to his knees, sobbing. "Please, I am begging you. Take back the donation. I promise I will be a good son from now on. Mr. Vance, legally, the donation is already in effect." Miss Davis stepped forward. "Please, respect your mother's decision." Michael suddenly jumped up and pointed at Miss Davis, screaming, "It was you! You must have manipulated my mom. I'm going to sue you." This scene was captured by the reporters who had rushed to the scene. That evening, the local news ran the story. "Ungrateful son causes scene at Foundation as elderly mother donates $1 million fortune." Michael's contorted face and his kneeling, crying image were played on a loop. Back at the hospital, I was exhausted. Carol helped me take off my wig and asked softly, "Do you regret it?" I looked out at the night sky and shook my head. I should have done this a long time ago. In the middle of the night, my phone vibrated, waking me. It was a text from Jessica. "You old witch, you have ruined my husband. I will make you pay for this." I did not reply, just deleted the message. This war was only just beginning. The news spread faster than I expected. The next morning, several media outlets were gathered outside my hospital room. The hospital had to post security guards to maintain order. Dr. Evans had to take me for my checkup through a service corridor. "Eleanor, you are a celebrity now," she said, half joking. Then her expression turned serious as she looked at my latest test results. "But it has gotten worse." "It has?" I asked calmly. Dr. Evans nodded. "The cancer cells are showing signs of spreading. We may need to adjust your treatment plan." "There is no need," I said, shaking my head. "I can feel it. I do not have much time left." Dr. Evans wanted to say something but just sighed. "Is there anything you wish for? We will do our best to arrange it." "I want to go home," I said softly. "I want to spend my last days in my own bed." Dr. Evans agreed to my discharge request and arranged for home hospice care. Carol helped me pack, secretly wiping away tears. Over the past few months, she had become the closest person to me. "Do not cry," I patted her hand. In the end, I got to make my own decisions for my own life. It was worth it. Before I was discharged, I received an unexpected call from Chloe's homeroom teacher. She said Chloe had not been to school for a week and she could not get in touch with Michael or Jessica. "Eleanor, I know I should not be bothering you," the teacher said hesitantly, "but Chloe has been writing a lot about you in her recent essays. I am very worried." "What did she write?" My heart clenched. "She wrote that you are sick, that her mommy and daddy are fighting, and that she is scared," the teacher said softly. The essay she turned in yesterday had only one sentence: "I want to live with my grandma." After hanging up, I immediately dialed Michael's number. It rang for a long time before he answered. The background was noisy like a bar. "Mom?" Michael's voice was slurred. He was clearly drunk. "Where is Chloe?" I asked directly. At home, I guess." "Michael," I raised my voice. "Her teacher said Chloe has not been to school for a week." There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a giggle, followed by Jessica's shriek. "Mind your own business, you old hag. Chloe is our daughter. It is none of your business." The call was disconnected. I sat on my hospital bed, my hands shaking. Chloe was only 9 years old. She should not have to endure this. "Eleanor," Carol gripped my hand. "Should we call the police?" I shook my head and dialed another number. Half an hour later, Miss Davis arrived at the hospital. After I explained the situation, she immediately contacted a social worker she knew at Child Protective Services. "We can apply for temporary custody," she explained, "but we need to prove parental neglect." I took out my phone and played the recording of Jessica's abusive tirade, as well as the news footage of Michael's scene at the foundation. Miss Davis nodded. This is enough. That afternoon, accompanied by the social worker, we went to Michael's house. No one answered the door, and their phones were off. Just as we were about to leave, a neighbor poked her head out. Looking for the Vances? They had a huge fight last night, then left with their suitcases this morning. What about the child? I asked urgently. I think they sent her to her maternal grandmother's house, the neighbor said, shaking her head. That poor kid cries all the time. We immediately drove to Jessica's mother's house. A wrinkled old woman answered the door. She was visibly flustered when she saw our group, especially the social worker in uniform. Where is Chloe? I asked directly. In her room, doing homework, the old woman stammered. Grandma, who is it? Chloe's little head peeked out from a room. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. Grandma! She ran over and hugged me around the waist, burying her face in my side. I stroked her thin back. She felt even smaller than the last time I saw her. The social worker asked Chloe a few serious questions and confirmed that while she had not been physically abused, she had indeed been neglected by her parents. Jessica's mother tried to make excuses. My daughter and son-in-law have been under a lot of stress lately. They did not mean it, but in the end, under the social worker's mediation, she agreed to let Chloe stay with me temporarily until Michael and Jessica sorted out their family problems. Back at my old house with Chloe, I sank exhausted onto the sofa. The little girl clung to me, as if afraid I would disappear. Grandma, you are not going to die, right? She suddenly asked. My heart jolted. Who told you Grandma was going to die? Mommy. Chloe lowered her head. She said you were faking being sick to trick people, and that you would be really dead soon. I pulled my granddaughter closer, a heavy weight pressing on my chest. How could Jessica say such a thing to a child? Chloe, Grandma is sick, I said softly. But Grandma will try her best to live a little longer, to spend more time with you, okay? Chloe nodded, her small hand touching my face. Do not be scared, Grandma. I will take care of you. That evening, I made Chloe her favorite scrambled eggs with tomatoes. After dinner, we organized her school bag together, getting her ready to go back to school the next day. Watching my granddaughter diligently doing her homework, I suddenly felt that perhaps this was the reason heaven had let me live a few more days to give this innocent child a little warmth and security. Before bed, Chloe took a wrinkled notebook from her school bag to show me. On the latest page, she had written, My grandma is the bravest person in the world. She is sick, but she donated all her money to help other sick people. Mommy says she is stupid, but I think she is so cool. When I grow up, I want to be like my grandma and help people. My tears fell onto the notebook, blurring the blue ink of her words. In that moment, all the pain and suffering felt worthwhile. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a sharp pain in my stomach. I stumbled to the bathroom and vomited a mouthful of blood. Staring at the shocking red in the sink, I knew my time was truly running out. I wiped my mouth and quietly returned to the bedroom. Chloe was sound asleep, her little face angelic in the moonlight. I gently stroked her hair and made one last wish in my heart. Please let me live long enough to find a safe home for her. In the morning, I called Dr. Evans and described my symptoms from the night before. He immediately arranged for an ambulance to pick me up, but he insisted that Chloe also come to the hospital for a checkup. A child living in such a high-stress environment needs a psychological evaluation, he said sternly. At the hospital, Chloe was taken by a child psychologist for testing, while I underwent a series of emergency examinations. The results were worse than I had imagined. The cancer had spread to my liver, and I was at risk of a major hemorrhage at any moment. Eleanor, I strongly advise you to be admitted immediately, Dr. Evans said. His brow furrowed as he looked at the test results. I shook my head. I want to spend a few more days with Chloe. At home, Dr. Evans nodded in understanding and arranged for a home hospice care team. He also prescribed me strong painkillers. Chloe's evaluation came back, mild anxiety and depressive tendencies, but overall, her coping skills were good. The psychologist told me privately, This child has an extremely strong attachment to you. Separation could be traumatic. Those words cut me like a knife. My time was short. What would happen to Chloe? Back at the house, I had an urgent meeting with Miss Davis. She proposed a bold plan. Given Michael and Jessica's clear parental neglect, we could petition to change Chloe's legal guardianship, designating my sister Chloe's great-aunt as her guardian. Your sister has been retired in Denver for many years. She lives alone and is financially stable, Miss Davis said, reviewing her notes. Most importantly, she is very willing to take Chloe in. A spark of hope ignited in me. My sister was 5 years younger than me. Her husband had passed away young, and she had no children of her own. She had always loved kids. And most importantly, she was a strong woman. She would never be bullied by Michael and Jessica. Let's do it, I decided immediately. Let's arrange for Chloe to transfer to a school in Denver as soon as possible. That afternoon, I had a video call with my sister. Chloe was a little shy at first, seeing her gray-haired but spirited great-aunt on the screen. But she was quickly captivated by the panda doll my sister held up. "Chloe, do you want to come to Denver and see real pandas?" my sister asked with a smile. Chloe's eyes lit up. She turned to me. "Grandma, will you come too?" I fought back tears. "Grandma is not feeling well. You go first, and when Grandma is better, I will come find you, okay?" Chloe seemed to sense something was wrong. Her little face fell, but she still nodded. 3 days later, all the arrangements were made. My sister flew in to pick Chloe up, armed with the freshly issued temporary guardianship papers. There was still no word from Michael and Jessica, as if they had vanished from the face of the earth. The day of her departure, Chloe clung to me, refusing to let go, crying her eyes out. I kissed her forehead and pressed my late husband's pocket watch into her hand. "This was your grandpa's treasure. It is yours now. When you miss Grandma, open it and look." Watching my sister lead Chloe by the hand through the security gate, I finally broke down, collapsing in my wheelchair, sobbing uncontrollably. Carol pushed me away from the airport, the sunlight so bright it was impossible to keep my eyes open. Back home, I lay in bed, utterly drained. Carol was organizing my medications when she suddenly exclaimed, "Eleanor, there is a letter under your pillow." I managed to sit up and took the envelope. It was addressed to Mom in Michael's messy handwriting. The letter was short, just a few lines. "Mom, Jessica, and I are divorced. She took off, went back to her parents. I lost my job. I am too ashamed to face you. I know I was wrong, but it is too late. Take care." I put down the letter and sighed deeply. If he had known it would come to this, why did he do what he did in the first place? The following days, I was like a lamp about to run out of oil, flickering between light and darkness. The hospice care team took care of me in shifts, 24 hours a day. The dosage of my painkillers kept increasing. Carol visited almost every day, bringing fresh flowers and greetings from the neighbors. Miss Clark from the Cancer Foundation also came often, updating me on how the donation was being used. My contribution had already helped 17 underprivileged cancer patients, 3 of whom had successfully undergone surgery. "Eleanor, you have given them a second chance at life," Miss Clark said, holding my hand. I smiled weakly. Perhaps this was the final meaning of my existence. One rainy evening, my condition took a sharp turn for the worse. The pain came in waves, so intense that even the maximum dose of morphine could barely touch it. Dr. Evans rushed over. After examining me, he shook his head at the nurse. "Eleanor, do you have any last wishes?" he asked softly. I thought for a moment. "I want to see Chloe." "Doctor." Evans took out his phone and dialed my sister's number. On the video call, Chloe's little face appeared on the screen. She was in a park in Denver, posing with a panda sculpture, her smile radiant. "Grandma, look, a big panda," she exclaimed, turning the phone around to show me the scenery. My vision was blurry, but I could still feel my granddaughter's joy. My sister took the phone. "Sis," she said softly, "do not you worry. Chloe is doing great. I will raise her like my own." I nodded, my lips moving but no sound coming out. Carol leaned in close to my mouth and could just make out what I was saying. "Michael." "I will contact him," Miss Davis said, immediately taking out her phone. But I knew there was not enough time. Darkness closed in from all sides, like a gentle tide. In my last moments of consciousness, I seemed to see my late husband standing in a bright light, reaching out his hand to me. And behind him, I could hear Chloe's clear, happy laughter. I did not expect to wake up again. Through a blinding white light, I vaguely saw a familiar face, Michael. He had lost a lot of weight. His face was unshaven. His eyes were red, and he was gripping my hand tightly. "Mom," his voice was hoarse. "I am here." I wanted to speak, but my throat was parched. A nurse helped moisten my lips, and I managed to force out a sound. "Chloe. She is on a school trip to Australia with your sister," Michael said quickly. "She is doing great. She talks about you every day." I nodded weakly, my eyes scanning the room. Besides Michael, Carol, Miss Davis, Dr. Evans, and Miss Clark were all there. My own little farewell party. How ironic. "Mom, I am sorry." Michael suddenly knelt by my bed, tears streaming down his face. "I am not human." I struggled to lift my hand and stroke his messy hair. This child, whom I had once loved with all my being, now looked like a lost, homeless man. "The house deed is in the safe deposit box," I said, each word a torment. "The combination is your birthday." Michael's head snapped up, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Mom, the pension. I donated it," I continued. "The house is for you. Be good to Chloe." "Mom," Michael sobbed, "I do not want the house. I want you to be okay. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong." I looked at Miss Davis. She nodded and took out a document. "Mr. Vance, this is your mother's revised will. The property goes to you, but with conditions. You must personally raise Chloe to adulthood, and you are not permitted to sell the property for personal enrichment." Michael nodded frantically. "I promise. I will promise anything." I then looked at Miss Clark. Her eyes were red as she said, "Eleanor, the foundation has established the Dignity Fund in your name. It has already helped 23 patients." I managed a smile. That was enough. In the time that followed, I drifted in and out of consciousness. The doctors said this was characteristic of the dying process, as the body's systems gradually shut down. Strangely, the pain lessened, replaced by a feeling of lightness, as if I could float away at any moment. Michael never left my side, feeding me water, wiping my face, clumsy but incredibly earnest. Once, I woke up to hear him on the phone in the hallway, his tone firm. "Jessica, you will never see Chloe again. Do you even deserve to be a mother?" On the fourth morning, I felt unusually clear-headed, even able to sit up and drink half a bowl of broth. The doctors called it a terminal rally, a sign of impending death. "Michael," I initiated the conversation, my voice clearer than it had been in days. "After I am gone, live a good life." Michael knelt by the bed, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mom, I do not want you to go." "Everyone has to go someday," I said, stroking his face. "Remember, love is more important than money." That afternoon, my breathing became labored. Dr. Evans gave me a sedative to make me more comfortable. In a haze, I heard Michael whisper in my ear, "Mom, I got a hold of Chloe. She wants to talk to you." A phone was placed by my ear, and Chloe's bright voice came through. "Grandma, I'm at the Sydney Opera House. It is so beautiful here. My aunt says when I grow up, I can be an architect and design houses even more beautiful than this. Grandma, I miss you so much." I wanted to answer, but I could no longer make a sound. Darkness fell again, but this time I was not afraid. In a daze, I seemed to see a beautiful house, with Chloe standing at the door, waving to me, the bright sun shining behind her. The heart monitor let out a long, piercing alarm. Medical staff rushed to my bedside, but I could no longer see them. I only felt myself rising, looking down at the small, frail body on the bed and my weeping son. In my final moments of consciousness, I suddenly understood. The meaning of life is not in its length, but in whether it was lived with dignity. The true meaning of love is not to take, but to give. A warm light enveloped me, and I smiled as I walked towards it.